Hello friends and welcome. Today our topic of deliberation is various statements of second law of thermodynamics, Carnot cycle, concept of entropy and Gibbs free energy. Now let us first try to have a look at the main objectives of today's deliberation. Number first, to understand the concept of thermodynamics. Number second, we shall be discussing various statements of second law of thermodynamics. Number third, we shall be explaining in detail Carnot cycle. Number fourth, understanding the concept of entropy. And finally, we shall be discussing Gibbs free energy. Now, we will start with the introduction about the concept of thermodynamics. Thermodynamics is the branch of physics that deals with the relationships between heat and other forms of energy. In particular, it describes how thermal energy is converted to and from other forms of energy and how it affects matter. It defines macroscopic variables such as internal energy, entropy, and pressure that partly describe a body of matter or radiation. It states that the behavior of those variables is subject to general constraints that are common to all materials beyond the peculiar properties of particular materials. These general constraints are expressed in the four laws of thermodynamics. Thermodynamics describes the bulk behavior of the body, not the microscopic behaviors of the very large numbers of its microscopic constituents such as molecules. The basic results of thermodynamics rely on the existence of idealized states of thermodynamic equilibrium. Its laws are explained by statistical mechanics in terms of the microscopic constituents. Thermodynamics applies to a wide variety of topics in science and engineering, especially physical chemistry, chemical engineering, and mechanical engineering. There are three principal laws of thermodynamics. Each law leads to the definition of thermodynamic properties which help us to understand and predict the operation of a physical system. A system undergoes a thermodynamic process when there is some sort of energetic change within the system, generally associated with changes in pressure, volume, internal energy, that is temperature, or any sort of heat transfer. There are several specific types of thermodynamic processes that have special properties. Number first is the adiabatic process, which is a process with no heat transfer into or out of the system. Number second is the isochoric process, which is a process with no change in volume, in which case the system does no work. Number third is the isobaric process, which is a process with no change in pressure. And last is the isothermal process, which is a process with no change in temperature. Now that we have understood the concept of thermodynamics, let us now try to learn about second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics states that for a thermodynamically defined process to actually occur, the sum of the entropies of the participating bodies must increase. In an idealized limiting case, that of a reversible process, this sum remains unchanged. A thermodynamically defined process consists of transfers of matter and energy between bodies of matter and radiation, each participating body being initially in its own state of internal thermodynamic equilibrium. The second law is an empirical finding that has been accepted as an axiom of thermodynamic theory. Statistical thermodynamics, classical or quantum, explains the microscopic origin of the law. The second law has been expressed in many ways. Its first formulation is credited to the French scientist Sadi Carnot in 1824. Carnot showed that there is an upper limit to the efficiency of conversion of heat to work in a cyclic heat engine operating between two given temperatures. Now, let us discuss the various statements of second law of thermodynamics. The historical origin of the second law of thermodynamics was in Carnot's principle. It refers to a cycle of a Carnot heat engine fictively operating in the limiting mode of extreme slowness known as quasi-static, so that the heat and work transfers are between subsystems that are always in their own internal states of thermodynamic equilibrium. The Carnot engine is an idealized device of special interest to engineers who are concerned with the efficiency of heat engines. Carnot's principle was recognized by Carnot at a time when the caloric theory of heat was seriously considered, before the recognition of the first law of thermodynamics and before the mathematical expression of the concept of entropy. Interpreted in the light of the first law, it is physically equivalent to the second law of thermodynamics and remains valid today. It states, the efficiency of a quasi-static or reversible Carnot cycle depends only on the temperatures of the two heat reservoirs and is same whatever the working substance. A Carnot engine operating in this way is the most efficient possible heat engine using those two temperatures. Now coming to the Clausius statement. The German scientist Rudolf Clausius laid the foundation for the second law of thermodynamics in 1850 by examining the relation between heat transfer and work. His formulation of the second law, which was published in German in 1854, is known as the Clausius statement, which is described as heat can never pass from a colder to a warmer body without some other change connected therewith occurring at the same time. Next is the Kelvin statement. Lord Kelvin expressed the second law as, it is impossible by means of inanimate material agency to derive mechanical effect from any portion of matter by cooling it below the temperature of the coldest of the surrounding objects. Next is the Planck's proposition. Planck offered the following proposition as derived directly from experience. This is sometimes regarded as his statement of the second law, but he regarded it as a starting point for the derivation of the second law. It is impossible to construct an engine which will work in a complete cycle and produce no effect except the raising of a weight and cooling of a heat reservoir. Next is the Planck statement. Planck stated the second law as follows. Every process occurring in nature proceeds in the sense in which the sum of the entropies of all bodies taking part in the process is increased. In the limit, that is for reversible processes, the sum of the entropies remains unchanged. Rather like Planck's statement is that of Uhlenbeck and Ford for irreversible phenomena. In an irreversible or spontaneous change from one equilibrium state to another, as for example the equalization of temperature of two bodies A and B when brought in contact, the entropy always increases. Now let us discuss the next part of our today's lecture, that is Carnot cycle. The Carnot cycle is a theoretical thermodynamic cycle proposed by Nicholas Leonard Sadi Carnot in 1824 and expanded upon by others in the 1830s and 1840s. It provides an upper limit on the efficiency that any classical thermodynamic engine can achieve during the conversion of thermal energy into work, or conversely the efficiency of a refrigeration system in creating a temperature difference, for example refrigeration, by the application of work to the system. It is not an actual thermodynamic cycle, but is a theoretical construct. A system undergoing a Carnot cycle is called a Carnot heat engine, although such a perfect engine is only a theoretical construct and cannot be built in practice. The Carnot cycle, when acting as a heat engine, consists of the following steps. Number first is the reversible isothermal expansion of the gas at the hot temperature T1, which is isothermal heat addition or absorption. During this step, which is shown in 1 to 2 on figure A, and A to B in figure 2, the gas is allowed to expand and it does work on the surroundings. The temperature of the gas does not change during the process and thus the expansion is isothermal. The gas expansion is propelled by absorption of heat energy Q1 and of entropy delta S is equal to Q1 divided by T1 from the high temperature reservoir. Second is the isentropic, that is reversible adiabatic expansion of the gas. For this step, which is shown in 2 to 3 on figure 1 and B to C in figure 2, the mechanisms of the engine are assumed to be thermally insulated, thus they neither gain nor lose heat. The gas continues to expand, doing work on the surroundings and losing an equivalent amount of internal energy. The gas expansion causes it to cool to the cold temperature T2. The entropy remains unchanged. Third is the reversible isothermal compression of the gas at the cold temperature T2, which is isothermal heat rejection. It is shown from 3 to 4 on figure 1 and C to D on figure 2. Now, the surroundings do work on the gas, causing an amount of heat energy Q2 and of entropy delta S is equal to Q2 divided by T2 to flow out of the gas to the low temperature reservoir. Number 4 is the isentropic compression of the gas, which is isentropic work input, which is shown from 4 to 1 on figure 1 and D to A on figure 2. Once again, the mechanisms of the engine are assumed to be thermally insulated. During this step, the surroundings do work on the gas, increasing its internal energy and compressing it, causing the temperature to rise to T1. The entropy remains unchanged. At this point, the gas is in the same state as at the start of step first. When the Carnot cycle is plotted on a pressure volume diagram, the isothermal stages follow the isotherm lines for the working fluid. Adiabatic stages move between isotherms and the area bounded by the complete cycle path represents the total work that can be done during one cycle. Now, let us discuss the temperature entropy diagram. The behavior of a Carnot engine or refrigerator is best understood by using a temperature entropy diagram or TS diagram, in which the thermodynamic state is specified by a point on a graph with entropy S as the horizontal axis and temperature T as the vertical axis. For a simple system with a fixed number of particles, any point on the graph will represent a particular state of the system. A thermodynamic process will consist of a curve connecting an initial state A and a final state B. The area under the curve will be Q is equal to summation of A to B T multiplied by ds, which is the amount of thermal energy transferred in the process. Now, let us discuss the next part of our today's lecture, that is entropy. In thermodynamics, entropy is a measure of the number of specific realizations or microstates that may realize a thermodynamic system in a defined state specified by macroscopic variables. Most understand entropy as a measure of molecular disorder within a macroscopic system. The second law of thermodynamics states that an isolated system's entropy never decreases. Such a system spontaneously evolves towards thermodynamic equilibrium, that is the state with maximum entropy. Non-isolated systems may lose entropy provided they increase their environment's entropy by that increment. Since entropy is a state function, the change in entropy of a system is constant for any process with known initial and final states. This applies whether the process is reversible or irreversible. However, irreversible processes increase the combined entropy of the system and its environment. The change in entropy delta S of a system was originally defined for a thermodynamically reversible process as delta S is equal to summation of delta QREV divided by T, where T is the absolute temperature of the system dividing an incremental reversible transfer of heat into that system. If heat is transferred out, the sign would be reversed, giving a decrease in entropy of the system. The above definition is sometimes called the macroscopic definition of entropy because it can be used without regard to any macroscopic description of the content of a system. The concept of entropy has been found to be generally useful and has several other formulations. Entropy was discovered when it was noticed to be a quantity that behaves as a function of state as a consequence of the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy is an extensive property. It has the dimension of energy divided by temperature, which has a unit of joules per Kelvin in the International System of Units. There are two related definitions of entropy, the thermodynamic definition and a statistical mechanics definition. Historically, the classical thermodynamics definition developed first. In the classical thermodynamics viewpoint, the system is composed of very large number of constituent atoms or molecules, and the state of the system is described by the average thermodynamic properties of those constituents. Later, the thermodynamic properties, including entropy, were given an alternative definition in terms of the statistics of the motions of the microscopic constituents of a system, modeled at first classically, for example, Newtonian particles constituting a gas, and later quantum mechanically, that is photons, phonons, spins, etc. Now, let us discuss the last part of our today's lecture, that is Gibbs free energy. In thermodynamics, the Gibbs free energy is a thermodynamic potential that measures the maximum or reversible work that may be performed by a thermodynamic system at a constant temperature and pressure, that is isothermal and isobaric. Just as in mechanics, where potential energy is defined as capacity to do work, similarly different potentials have different meanings. The Gibbs free energy is the maximum amount of non-expansion work that can be extracted from a thermodynamically closed system, that is one that can exchange heat and work with its surroundings but not matter, and this maximum can be attained only in a completely reversible process. When a system changes from a well-defined initial state to a well-defined final state, the Gibbs free energy change delta G equals to the work exchanged by the system with its surroundings minus the work of the pressure forces during a reversible transformation of the system from the initial state to the final state. The Gibbs energy, also referred to as capital G, is also the thermodynamic potential that is minimized when a system reaches chemical equilibrium at constant pressure and temperature. The Gibbs free energy, originally called available energy, was developed in the 1870s by the American mathematician Josiah Willard Gibbs. In 1873, Gibbs described this available energy as the greatest amount of mechanical work which can be obtained from a given quantity of a certain substance in a given initial state without increasing its total volume or allowing heat to pass to or from external bodies except such as at the close of the processes are left in their initial condition. The initial state of the body, according to Gibbs, is supposed to be such that the body can be made to pass from it to states of dissipated energy by reversible processes. The Gibbs free energy is defined as G is equal to U plus PV minus Ts, which is same as G is equal to H minus Ts, where U is the internal energy, P is the pressure, V is volume, T is temperature, S is entropy, and H is the enthalpy. The Gibbs free energy of the system is a state function because it is defined in terms of thermodynamic properties that are state functions. The change in the Gibbs free energy of the system that occurs during a reaction is therefore equal to the change in the enthalpy of the system minus the change in the product of the temperature times the entropy of the system. That is, delta G is equal to delta H minus delta Ts. If the reaction is run at constant temperature, this equation can be written as delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. That's all about today's lecture. Hope you have understood it very well. Thank you very much and goodbye.